Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to make this quick and easy favor box. And I love it because it's a little candy box and you could write somebody's name on there if you wanted it to be a place card, a holder for Christmas time at Christmas dinner, or you could stamp on a Merry Christmas or a Peace on Earth or whatever you like. We're going to be using stamps today from our sponsor, Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them online at pegstamps.com and you can use what you already have, or you might want to pick up some of these Christmas ones like this little ornamental holly one. I really love the little berry on here, and it's one of their less expensive sets, which is really nice. And another great thing about this box is that it only uses one sheet of cardstock a piece. The supplies are really simple. You probably have everything you need at home. You'll need some stamps and ink, either sponges or ink brushes for the decorating. You're going to need some strong adhesive like this double-sided tape or hot glue. The ATG tape is not going to be strong enough. You want something really strong like a Scor Tape or a soup line tape, just a little piece of paper that you can stamp on, and I like to stamp on a pad of newsprint from the dollar store because it gives me a little cushion. And you're also going to want a scoring board. So the first thing you're going to do is take your piece of cardstock, and I'm using the really thick stuff, the Recollections, because it's just the thickest cardstock that I've been able to find that's not crazy expensive. And what I did was I chopped it to 7 inches by 8, and you're going to have scraps left over to do your matting panels. And your matting panels, you're going to need 2 that are 1.5 by 1.5. You're going to need one that is 2.5 by 3.5, and one that is 1.5 by 3.5. So these are our little matting areas. And then you'll even have a little bit of extra cardstock, but this is what you need for this project. So I actually sketched my idea out yesterday just to make sure it was going to work, and then I'm going to use that to kind of help me score this. And I'll probably scan this and actually pop it up on my blog so that you can print it out if you want to as well, just as a reminder. So the first thing we are going to do is we are going to score this a couple times, and we are going to score this at 2 inches. So I've got this, it's 8 inches the long way, and it's going out 7 inches this way. So we're going to score this at 2 inches. And this is a real thick stuff, so I actually score it twice. And if you don't have a scoring board, you can use a ruler and a butter knife for this. Then I'm going to skip over 2 more inches and score it at 4 inches. Then, and you can see if I tip it, I think you can see my scoring lines maybe if I tip it like that. Now we're going to turn it, and I'm going to score it 2 inches from each side in pretty much. So it's at 2 inches and at 6 inches here. Alright, so you can see our little scoring lines there, hopefully. And then what we're going to do is grab our scissors so we can set that right out of the way. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut out these corners, but we are going to leave some tabs in there. So I'm going to cut straight down here on my scoring line. Hopefully you can see that. And I am going to cut little tabs on the 2 squares on each side. Okay, so up here again, I'm cutting my tab out, and then I'm just going to cut up on the score line. Be as neat as you can when you're cutting on the score lines, because those are going to be finished edges. So if it's easier for you to use like a metal ruler and an X-Acto knife, do that, because that will be nice and straight. You make your tabs as wide as you like. They're going to be on the inside of the box, so they're not going to really be shown. There we go. Okay, so what I realized doing the first box was that I shouldn't assemble it until I'm done inking everything, because it's a little more difficult that way. One thing I do want to do is round the corners on this back part. That's going to give us that little raised up area. Now I just stamped Peace on Earth there, but you could also write a name there. You could write a name there if you want this to be a place card as well, which is handy, especially if you have children, because if you're going to put candy in a box, you will want a name on there so you don't have fights later on in the day. And then I'm also going to round the edges of my little panels here, but I'm going to use a smaller corner rounder. This is a really great corner rounder, especially if you do any bookmaking or you work with like really thick material, because this will do like cardstock and cardboard, like the chipboard and multiple layers. So I really like it. It's by WeRM Memory Keepers. So I am just going to go through and punch each of these corners so I have them all rounded. Okay, so you should have cardstock pieces that look like this. We've got the body of our box, back panel, front panel, and 2 side panels. And I'm going to set this out of the way, and we're going to do some stamping on our little panels here. So I'm just going to arrange them all out. And I'm going to start with my largest stamp, which is this kind of holly. We also have this little text one, so if you are going to put like a name, if you're going to do a little calligraphy or stamp a sentiment, I would do that at this point, so that way you can work kind of around it. I'm going to go in with this pretty elderberry purple ink and stamp right there in the center. And now I'm going to my largest building stamp here, which would be my holly leaves, and I'm going to go in with some cottage ivy, which is a nice Christmas green. And I'm just going to show you on this main panel, because all the other panels are going to be done the same way. I like to start in with my corners. And the stem begins where your little line is on the edge of the stamp, so I like to have that out at the corner. And then I'm just going to fill in. Just slightly turn it a little bit each time so they're not all lined up like soldiers. You want them to look a little bit random. So I want to leave it, I don't want it super full, because I do want to have a little room for other things. And now I'm going to go in with my berries here. This is a little bit of a larger stamp. You could do this one next, but I think that doing the berries, since it's solid, works. It really doesn't matter. It's completely up to you. I'm going to do this in a couple different motifs. I'm going to do 2 shades of purple and also 2 shades of red, but you want to do do them separately so that you don't just contaminate your ink pad colors. In fact, I think I will go in and do this green first, just because I know the purple will show up on top of the green. So I can go ahead, if I get a little carried away, I can put purple berries where we have too many pine needles. I like to vary my shades of green too. It just gives it a more rich color, especially when you're only using a couple different stamps. I really love the one that has the holly. This is called Ornamental Holly. Those two are so pretty together. I really like it. Okay, and I'm also going to ink the edges with this lighter green. It's easier to control a lighter color ink pad when you're doing the edges. You could use the ink brush for this. It's completely up to you. Or if you decide you want a little more color in there, you can do it with the ink brush as well. Or if you want to do an all over color. So keep that in mind. And then I am going to start off with the purple ones, and I'm going to go with my light purple. And then I'm just going to kind of rock the edges in the darker one. And this is strong enough that I can go over the green. The red over the green, though, remember, those are opposite colors, so they will make mud. They'll make brown. So if you think you really want to snuggle one of these berries up to the up in the foliage, you want to do that with the purple. Little color theory lesson for you. Now I could probably trim off a little bit of the excess rubber. If you end up having issues with that, go ahead and do that. But I did find that if I do make an error and I get extra ink and I transfer that onto the paper, I found that you can actually just stamp. Well, I'll do one on purpose and show you. So let's say I got, like, I'm smushing that. You never smush that. I smushed that so hard. Look at all the extra yucky ink I got on there. Now I'll get a little bit of the other color. Now let's say if I stamp, I need to place a little, I stamp and, oh, actually, wow, I didn't even make a mistake there. Well, I'll do it with the red because now we'll do another one over here. Oh shoot, you know what? I can't stamp a bad one with these stamps if I wanted to. I've actually have done a bad one, and well, I'll show you here. I'll really smush it down there. So when you get that extra berry, just stamp next to it. You could stamp a cluster of them and cover up that mark if you want to. So it's not, that's funny. I usually can make mistakes on demand, and I couldn't today, so that was kind of funny. So that's how you deal with that. But I find that as long as you get in the habit of stamping upright with these, you're not going to have too much of an issue. And you can fill in as much as you want. And another fun thing that you can do is actually with any smaller holly stamp, you could go in and do more like foliage. Like I could go in back in with the with this little pine sprig if I want, or I could look at my other stamp sets that I have and I could find a smaller holly leaf and use that, because then that would look really pretty too. Like maybe this teeny one right over here. It's just a little evergreen. I can go in there with that dark and I can just add, and that's so Christmassy looking, just a little sprig here and there. So be creative, have fun with these. These work so well together. So you know, when you start building a stamp collection, start mixing and matching them and see what you can do. Maybe have a little holly there over the word, near the words. That will look nice. And there you go. That's our center panel. And so we're going to do this exact same thing for the other panels that we have trimmed out. Okay, we have all of our tiles stamped, our little matting tiles, and then we're going to bring our box back and we're actually going to do some inking. So what I want to do is have a layer of ink under where the edges are going to be, where we're going to see the kind of that area. So I'm going to start off on this side of the box. I'm going to ink pretty much all of this side with the indents. Not the bottom, obviously. But this is dye-based ink, and that's important to use dye-based ink. Pigment ink is a little bit greasy, so if you use pigment ink, it might, your matting layer might be tricky to stick down. And we're going to get this guy up here. And also, I find that adding the ink, if your edges aren't perfect, like your cut edges, it really helps minimize any sort of kind of issues that you have there. And of course, if you wanted to, you could do your, if you have a nice sturdy like poster board or really sturdy cardstock. Most cardstocks that are colored, other than, you can get some neutrals in a really thick cardstock. They're usually not that thick if they're colors, or you have to pay quite a bit to get a really nice quality, really thick cardstock. So now on the inside of the box, might as well do the whole inside as well. Most of the edges up here though. Now this would be a great situation to use a full-size ink pad, but if you've done Christmas cards before, chances are you have a full-size red ink pad. So rather than using a different red for your inking and your stamping, I would just go ahead and get that large red ink pad and use that. I know I'm going to have to re-ink this pretty soon myself. But I didn't have a really thick red cardstock, so this worked really well for me, just to go ahead and use what I had. Okay, so this panel is going to go there, but I can't stick that one down yet because I need to assemble the box first. But I can do the panels that are going to be on the outside of the box. So I'm going to start with that. And for just putting the matting panels on, you can use the ATG gun. That is totally fine, or any other tape runner that you have, because it's dye-based ink. It's not going to be greasy, and this doesn't have to really support a bunch of weight. And the other nice thing about this is that it is not, it's not structural. These pieces are not structural. They're just decorative, so it's not going to affect, it doesn't need to be really strong like the next part that we're going to do. And you can do this, you could do this for spring colors and Easter, and you could put some Easter eggs in there. Like you could put the plastic Easter eggs and fill them, and that would be a really pretty favor to put out at Easter time. And so now we're going to fold our box up. So you just fold up your little tabs. And I don't use a bone folder for this because I don't want it. I only wanted to fold it at a 90-degree angle, so that's gonna be fine. I'm going to start by putting these two tabs that are going to go on the back first, so that I'll be able to really get in there and put my back piece on without things being in my way. So I'm just going to pull off a couple short strips of adhesive for these tabs. This is my strong adhesive, so that's why I'm not using the ATG gun, because I need this really strong stuff. You probably have something, there's red line tape, that's really strong. Scor tape is really strong. Or hot glue. Just, you got to work quick when you're using hot glue. That's the only thing with that. Pull off your liner, stick it down. And then we can glue this down. And again, this is a decorative piece, So we can use the ATG gun. So another benefit of working on the newsprint pad, not only does it give us a little squish and gives us a nice stable surface for stamping, and you know, we can make a mess without having to clean it up, but like if I was working on a non-stick craft mat, that ink would stay like mushy, it would stay wet, and it would transfer. So like now, as soon as it's dry, it's not going to transfer on anything. So that's another reason I really like working on this type of mat. Now I could see when I cut on the score lines, you really want to cut on the inside of the score lines. You want to cut towards the part you want to keep. So I can see that that's going to show up. I'm just going to shear that off a little bit. It's like the width of the score line I could see there. So it's a small detail. But yeah, I caught it, so I might as well fix it. If you left it in, not a big deal. It's just, it looks a little neater this way. And you could totally, if you were making a bunch of these, I would highly suggest that you find some colored cardstock. But if you're only making like half a dozen or so, I would just use what you have that's thick. And of course, if you don't feel like stamping, you could always decorate with pattern paper. These would make a really excellent storage option for your peg stamps as well. I'll show you what I mean in a second. I probably would make it so that this part here is only 2 inches high, so it's all flush the whole way. So instead of cutting your paper to 7 by 8, you cut it to 6 by 8, and that's how you'd end up with a flush box. But I'll just show you really quick in case you thought you might want to do that. Look at that. I mean, it's such a great way to store your stamps when you're working on a project too. So I mean, you can fit quite a few in there. Or if you want to give some peg stamps, that's a cool idea too. So for the filler, what I did was I just used my paper crimper, and I just crimped some 6-inch wide cardstock, and this is about a 6 by 6 piece. And then you can use regular scissors, or you can use, fringy scissors, and just fringe that. I'm gonna lose a few because I'm fringing it that way, but that's all right. Oh, I lost a lot. Okay, take more time than I'm doing. But then just kind of crinkle it. And you can throw those loose pieces in there too. Basically just to give you a little bit of a nest to put, like, just to show as background for your the goodies you're going to put in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can also use you could use filler. You can get filler at any dollar store, party store, whatever you like, but really that's all you need to do. And then you could plop in a few treats, and there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. These are fun and quick and easy to make. You can use the supplies you already have, and I just think they're so cute, and they would be so cute on your party table this Christmas time. If you want to find any of the supplies I use, check out the video description, because I will have a detailed supply list and links to all the supplies at Rubber Stamp Tapestry. You can find them online at pegstamps.com, and be sure to check out the video description for a coupon code that will save you 20% on your stamp order. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this tutorial, and until next time, happy crafting!